Okay, so good afternoon. I have with me today a very nice man. He's actually an honest man. His name is Charley Bodkin. And the good news is he's running for mayor with the other candidates. So he has to stand out and show that he is the best of the candidates, correct?
That is indeed correct.
Okay. And tell me, Charlie, what made you want to run for mayor?
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Honest Charley Bodkin. I was born with the first name Honest, middle name Charlie.
That was your real first name?
Mm-hmm.
You kidding me?
No. My great-grandfather, his name was Charles Card. He owned a diner, and in the early 40s, his community gifted him the nickname Honest when they realized after he would ask them what you have to eat when they were ready to pay, that he himself expected them to be honest, so he himself must be pretty honest.
I thought honest was to show that you're honest, so it's actually your name.
Yeah, it's my legal first name, and my great-grandfather started a business after the war in the late 40s, early 50s called Honest Charlie's Speed Shop, and they sold race car parts, hot rod parts, throughout the country. They used to sponsor Indy 500 races, so they'd sponsor an individual lap or two. They'd get on the loudspeaker and say, "Lap 415 is sponsored by Honest Charlie's Speed Shop out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Write to this address to get all your automotive parts needs." And then they would hand him a shot glass with the year of the race. And,
at work, they call you Charlie or Honest?
At work, they call me Charlie. They know my name's Honest, but
they call you Charlie.
Yeah. But most of my life, I've gone by the name Charlie. I just felt like in a moment of clarity last year after leaving the startup that I co-founded for 5 years, that if I didn't go by my first name as well, at least to introduce myself as that, I'd kind of feel like I'm lying to myself and others.
Okay.
And with a name like Honest, I can't really do that. So,
okay.
But Charlie's the name I'm most comfortable with.
And on the ballot, the word honest will appear.
Mm-hmm. And I called the election office to confirm that my middle name will also appear.
Okay.
So first, middle, and last will be on the ballot.
So you officially registered?
Officially registered, and I'm currently leading Mayor Breed alphabetically.
Alphabetically?
Yeah, because my last name's Bodkin and her last name's Breed. The only two letters that stand between those two last names is a P and a Q. And so I'll be right above her name on the ballot. Notwithstanding somebody else that jumps in with a name that begins with B, P, or BQ, or
so your name will be right there first position.
Right above hers. It's right now it's a pretty packed field. There's about 30 candidates running, and not all of them are going to make it to the ballot. Because you're going to need to collect about 14,000 signatures or pay about $7,000, with each signature being worth 50 cents. So let's say I collect 1,000 signatures, that'll be $500 credited to that $7,000 that I'll need to pay for the filing fee. That's about 2 or 3% of the mayor's annual salary, which is about $351,000 each year.
You still got time to collect your signatures.
Yeah, so signature collection begins March 18th of next year.
Okay.
So it's a very short amount of time until the deadline. I believe it's May 16th.
So you have about 2 months to collect how many signatures?
About 14,000.
14,000.
If I collect none, I'll have to pay the full filing fee.
Yeah, but you'll be able to collect 14,000, hopefully.
I'd like to exceed that. The more signatures, the better. That'll mean more people engaged with the campaign.
Yeah, and I heard that if you collect those signatures, then you have funding from the city.
Yeah, if you raise about $50,000, you'll be able to receive matching funds.
Okay.
So that's a tall order, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Okay.
You don't need to necessarily accept matching funds. There's a lot of regulations and caveats to accepting matching funds. But I think at this point I'd like to make that a goal and reach matching fund status.
Okay, to go back to my first question, what motivated you to run?
Yeah, for sure. So last year, 2022, the voters had not yet moved the municipal elections from 2023 to 2024.
Okay.
Because Prop H passed, the elections were moved to coincide with the presidential election, a measure that the current mayor fought, even though it would have given her an additional year in office. But I decided last September to run, and I did it at City Hall. I was attending a party at City Hall for the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th, 2022. And I thought it was a nice time. You know, it was a small party. And the mayor, in the middle of her speech, said, "This is your City Hall. This is our City Hall. This is the people's City Hall. Stay, enjoy yourselves, have a nice time." And I thought, oh, that's nice, I will. And then at the end of her speech, she said, "All right, party's over. Everybody get out." And I thought, you know what? If I was mayor, we'd throw a bigger party with more walks of life, and the party would keep going until one of these three things happened. 2 a.m., then party's over. Or people start getting a little bit crazy and maybe trying to carry out the statue of Harvey Milk or something. Party's got to end then. Or until the sheriff shut us down,
So
which they're in charge of protecting City Hall.
What time she wanted to end the party?
Basically at the conclusion of her speech, which left not a lot of time to, party and, spend time. If you throw a party at your house and, you end the party at the conclusions of your remarks, you don't get many people.
You could have stayed, no?
You could have stayed, but eventually the sheriffs will say, "Hey, party's over." And,
Really?
people start to...
And the party was about what?
It was to celebrate the start of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Okay.
So there was a Mexican color guard. The day after is Mexican Independence Day.
Okay, but you had a reason to be there for the Mexican Independence Day?
Well, that was the day following. I was there, truthfully, I was there to check out City Hall. There was an art gallery happening at one of the supervisors' offices. And I was working across the street at the library. The public library there at Civic Center. I was working on applying for jobs. I was about 6 months out of work, and I was being threatened with eviction and unable to afford the basics of life, the bare necessities, which, by the way, is the name of my political party, named after the California grizzly. And our policy platform is named after the Blue Jungle Book song, BARE, because I believe it's the government's responsibility to ensure that everybody has affordable access to the bare necessities of life. And I was working across the street, working on a job application. I work in technology, so I was working on a coding assignment. And afterwards, I wanted to take a little bit of a break, and I heard about City Hall and what was going on with the art gallery.
And you decided to apply?
Decided to go in, and I realized, a typical politician, not throwing a great party. I don't think we have great parties in this country anymore. And I thought to myself, you know what? An honest politician would not really speak out of both sides of their mouth. So I thought, there's a concept. It's called nominative determinism. And it basically means nominative, your name, determinism pertaining to your determination in life, which may become your destiny. Notable examples, Steve Jobs ended up creating a lot of jobs. Amy Freeze reports on the weather. Usain Bolt, fast as a bolt of lightning, fastest man alive.
I heard about these things that, pave your future. But basically, you probably also ran because you're concerned about the issues facing the city, right?
Yeah, not only in my own life with being 6 months out of work. Thankfully, I found work, the place I was applying for at the library. I was working at the library. I work for a company called Converge. We're a cybersecurity insurance company.
Yeah.
I was just promoted the other day, so going on about a year now there. Not only in my own life was I dealing with housing insecurity, but in my own family here in San Francisco, I witnessed housing insecurity and the trauma that it inflicts on children and my sister was actually written about in the Los Angeles Times for her housing situation in the Bayview. Going back to the story about how I decided to run, I want this whole city to feel like a party. I want this whole state, this whole country, this whole world to feel like a party. Where people are having fun, they're having a nice time. It's not too unaffordable to get into. People have a roof over their head. People are laughing, smiling, dancing, playing music, doing arts. People aren't committing all sorts of crazy crimes or doing all sorts of crazy drugs. And it's not too messy or dirty. If you throw a party at your house where, it's messy, it's dirty, it's not the type of party that people want to stay at. And so I really think that the metaphor of a party goes beyond just, the reality of, when you throw a party or you have a political party. It goes to what the government should be there for, just, again, to ensure that people have the bare necessities of life so they can reach for social belonging, having fun, and, finding what they truly love to do, reaching for the stars, and without having to worry about simply surviving.
Isn't that what Gavin Newsom tried to do with Care Not Cash?
I think that politicians here in the city over the past 20 years, I had the fortunate experience of meeting Steve Kawa, one of the chief of staff for Willie Brown, Gavin Newsom, and Ed Lee. And I asked him, the mayors in your experience that you worked for, did they micromanage a lot? And he was like, constantly. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, for the better or for the worse? Like, did that work out for the best or the worst? And he was like, all I can say is they did it all the time. So it's kind of non-answer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I thought, mayors, it's not their responsibility to get into the weeds. They can't. They have very busy schedules. What their job is to provide a vision and fill positions with people that love what they do, that are passionate about what they do. Because if you find people that don't love what they do, aren't passionate about it, they don't have a great mission, they don't have a great vision being provided by leadership, then they are unfortunately not going to be up to the job. Mm-hmm. And I just think that the type of people that you find that want to work for a leader that micromanages, that is not providing a strong vision, aren't the type of people that are going to achieve the type of success that we need to see in this city. We need strong metrics for success to get us to where we need to be.
Okay, and you say you have a startup. Are you still with that startup, or are you now working for that company, Conversion?
I'm currently working for a company called Converge, which is a cybersecurity insurance startup. Started 2.5 years ago. Okay. I was about our 14th employee there. Yep. Before that, I was working with a company named Yellow Brim, which I co-founded and ran as our CTO. Mm-hmm. I'm still a minority owner of that company, but it's in the hands of my former business partner. So I'm no longer involved in the day-to-day operations there.
So if you become mayor, you would leave these two positions?
Yeah, I'm not currently involved in the day-to-day operations of Yellow Brim, and I'd be glad to give up my ownership of them, even though it takes up none of my time. And with my current company, I would
have to.
I would step down. Yeah.
Okay,
in my position.
So I was just reading through your paper, and I saw online that San Francisco spends $70,000 a year per homeless, and they give out those tents, for people to live in a tent until they find housing, and they spend about $61,000 per tent in terms of maintaining the cleaning and all that. What would be a better solution?
It was my understanding that during the emergency shelter in order a shelter-in-place order that happened at the beginning of the pandemic, that the Department of Public Works partnered with the Homeless Coalition to hand out tents.
Right.
As far as I understand it, that program has ended.
Oh, okay.
That was simply an emergency to keep people in place because that was the emergency order.
So we should see less tents on the city now?
Well, there's other ways to get tents than by the government. But the sad reality is that 80 to 90% of the homeless people that are on the streets of San Francisco or in shelters, counts vary. They say it's between 8,000 and 9,000 homeless people. Some people will debate that it's 20,000. About half of the 8,000 are in shelters, with the remaining 4,000 cloistered mainly in hot zones, including the Tenderloin, Bayview. But I don't think we're going to see a huge change. In fact, with the mayor's recent order to ensure that those receiving services are drug-free, we may see more people in tents. I want to see an increased number of navigation centers. I've talked to people on the west side of San Francisco that would love to see a navigation center there. From what I've seen from those centers, they do a really great job of outreach and building trust amongst the homeless to get them into programs, into a transitionary navigation center, then connect them to homes or housing later on. I don't think that we're really going to see homelessness properly addressed until we look at the word homelessness. And I think too often do we try and fix homelessness by not providing homes for people. You need to have a home to be able to get back on your own 2 feet, to deal with mental health issues, to deal with drug abuse problems. Now, that's not to say everybody is going to be able to make the jump into a full home right away. So there are going to need to be transitionary programs. For those suffering from the most severe mental health and drug abuse problems, we're going to need to have conservatorship. We're going to need to have transitionary programs, rehabilitation programs. But we need to do something to stop the revolving door of people in and out of services just to go back on the streets.
Yeah, because with 70,000, you can actually provide an apartment for each and every one of them.
Multiple.
Yeah, like if you spend 3,000 a month, that's 36,000 a year. That's plenty. So the issue is they don't want to be inside and they want to be outdoors because that's what they want to do. They don't want to be locked in.
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of time with the homeless, and by the way, I used to say unhoused, but really people are looking for a home.
Oh,
they're not just looking for a house.
The majority are looking for a place to stay.
For a home, not just a place to stay, not just a roof over their head, but a home. You know, where you can live a dignified life, where you can have your pet, or you can bring your significant other. A lot of shelters
they don't accept the second person.
Exactly, and they'll say no to pets, and
that's a dilemma.
Yeah, it is, and so it's no wonder that people are going to refuse indoor shelters, in part because they can be very unsafe as well.
Oh yeah. They take all their people steal all their belongings while they're asleep.
Yeah, and the threat of physical violence is present as well. And so if we're going to fix homelessness, we need to look at working with landlords to basically make them feel secure that when we put homeless people, when we transition homeless people into units, that those units are going to be well taken care of, that the city is going to have the landlords back in case of any problems.
But I heard that people who have extra rooms available in their home don't want to rent to homeless people. They want to rent to people who have a job and a paycheck.
Yeah, and we can look at cities like Houston that have worked and partnered with landlords to
accept them?
Yeah, accept them. And a lot of that comes down to making sure that they feel financially secure in having homeless people be placed into units.
Okay. Well, to switch to another topic, the topic of jobs and employment, which would solve a lot of problems too. What is your economic outlook for San Francisco if people like you, when you were looking for work, can find work?
Yeah, I think finding work just takes time. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, if you go out and look for a job, it might take you a few months to find something. Okay. And that's not to say I didn't have any work during that time. I was doing contract work to help pay some of the bills that I had. But I think that we need to look at housing affordability. You know, we were talking about homelessness. Homelessness, and I was saying 80 to 90% of the homeless were in homes before becoming homeless in county nearby where they're now homeless.
Because they lost their job.
They lost their job. They had some type of mentally traumatic event, like a divorce, or they were assaulted or something like that, or they had a loss of their parent or something like that.
And they are disturbed.
Yeah. A lot of it, too, is a disproportionate number of homeless are elderly, living on fixed incomes from Social Security. And with rising rents,
they can't.
They're unable to pay that.
Okay.
This is part of the reason why you're seeing food lines or lines outside of food pantries increasingly grow. Not only, you know, have grocery prices increased by 10% in the past year alone, we've seen emergency funding of increased food stamps be decreased as the pandemic emergency era ends. We're also seeing, 1 in 4 San Franciscans at risk of hunger.
Well, they receive $270 a month for food stamp, right? EBT card.
It depends on if you're working. Some people receive as little as like $100 or $50.
Oh, because they have income.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like hurdles that we do put in place for people to qualify for those things. Mm-hmm. And once you start to get past those hurdles, your amount goes down. And the mayor and the board just approved a budget to cut funding to the San Francisco Marin Food Bank.
Oh, really?
Over the next 2 years.
It's a good organization, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great organization. I just turned 30 the other day and had a Facebook fundraiser for it. For them, raised some money.
Yeah, I went there in person, packed the rices and the oatmeals and all that. It's a very well-organized organization.
Yeah, so food insecurity is near and dear to my heart. But as far as going back to your original question around economic opportunity, you know, the most, and this ties a little bit into crime and homelessness, but the most commonly shoplifted items include like baby formula and diapers.
Really?
Yeah.
So women are doing it.
Or a male provider.
Oh, yeah.
And so when
they lock them in now. They lock them now.
Yeah, and so when we look at you know, crime and the economy and homelessness, all of these things are tied in. You know, if you have a good paying job, you don't need to be out on the streets. You don't need to be committing crimes of
and you gotta have your head together to keep the job.
Yeah, and you know, mental health is a huge issue. I'd like to create a department of problem solvers to hit the streets with the plainclothes mental health care experts.
Yeah, I read that, yeah.
And also trusted community members. You know, if you just ask somebody that's homeless, hey, do you like being out on the streets? They might just give you a pithy answer like, yeah, I love it, man. And a lot of people will say like, oh yeah, they want to be out there because of that. No, it takes time to build trust to get into the circle of trust with anybody in life, but also homeless people. And they're just people, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And once you start to peel back the layers of mistrust, you find that people trust you enough to say, hey, you know, all these things happened in my life that just culminated in me becoming homeless. I'd like to get out of this.
Oh, yeah.
And the Department of Problem Solvers will also look at, you know, cases where people are just so mentally unwell that they need to be placed into conservatorship programs and mental health care institutions for longer than what we're currently doing.
It's very expensive.
It is very expensive, and we have a shortage of mental health care providers. So along with my economic plan is to incentivize mental health care providers to come here, study at our great universities, and agree to stay and work here in exchange for their tuition and for reduced cost housing, so that we can lead the country in terms of capacity for mental health care infrastructure.
Let's say they take drugs, like at the BART it says 600 people per year die of overdose in San Francisco when you enter the BART. That means almost 2 per day die of overdose. Now, these people, you can reason with them all you want. If they want their drugs, you're not going to keep them on the job.
Yeah, and you know, they're not the only ones taking drugs. You know, wealthy people take lots of drugs. They just take higher quality drugs that aren't laced with fentanyl.
Oh,
and they do it in the privacy of their own home.
Okay.
So when people are economically secure, they're inclined to take drugs. They're going to get better drugs.
Okay.
But you know, we also have an issue where people are self-medicating. Okay. You know, in the 70s, 80s, a lot of mental health care institutions started to shut down.
Oh.
And as a result, people were being prescribed less drugs to help them cope with some of the
issues they're facing.
Yeah, and society's got a lot of issues these days, and so it's no wonder people are trying to cope. Now, drugs aren't the best solution to it, but it's just a part of human nature. And so people are self-medicating, and now they've reached a point where they're going to need drugs to help them stabilize, to get off of
the fentanyl,
what they're currently on, whether that's uppers or downers. Like they're going to need stabilization in healthcare facilities. And right now, what we use is a 5150 statute to basically hold mentally unwell people in hospitals for up to 72 hours. There's been a new provision to the law of 5152, which allows for people to be held for longer periods of time, I believe up to a month or up to 45 days, perhaps longer, perhaps less. And yeah, it is an issue with staffing and resources. But, you know, we spend a lot of resources on the criminal justice system. And when people get out of the criminal justice system, they are much more likely to end up homeless again.
Okay.
And so that is not a solution. And frankly, we need to be moving funds from criminal justice, punitive programs into diversionary rehabilitative programs and healthcare.
How about the people who sell drugs? That should be criminalized, the drug pushers.
Yeah. You know, in all of this conversation, we're talking about freedoms that people have. You're not free to sell these types of drugs on the street.
Okay.
And
why do they do it?
Well, there's a large economic incentive. if you can sell a pound of fentanyl is worth a lot more than a pound of weed, let's say.
Oh, okay.
And so if you're going to smuggle it into the country, you're going to want to get the most for the weight that you're carrying. So unfortunately,
so
there's an economic incentive there for criminals.
Oh yeah, for the immigrant who smuggle drugs, right?
Yeah, and Americans are part of the drug trade too.
Okay.
But yeah,
if there's a demand, there's a supply.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, vice versa. If there's a supply, then people are gonna want it.
Yeah. And right now there's a demand for self-medication because we no longer have the mental health care. Excuse me, the mental health care institutions that we once had that were shut down out of concerns over people's civil liberties. But I believe that there's kind of a, for the academic phrase, there's a dialectic to like human history, where something really good happens and something really bad will happen in response to that. Or something good happens and something good happens in response to that. If we see an issue with mental health care facilities where people's civil rights are being abused, and we swing the complete other way, we kind of go reactionary against that circumstance, then we might end up with unintended outcomes where we just say, oh, it's just too hard to run these things, let's close them down. And then whose civil liberties, whose freedoms do we then start to abridge? You may feel like you're free to sleep on the streets, but what does that do for other people's freedoms?
Okay.
To walk safely down the street?
They don't want to.
They don't want to, and you feel very unsafe, and you might just feel like moving. And I'm hoping that we can do something to balance people's freedoms so that we can all live together safely
yeah.
in harmony. And again, like a big party where we can all have fun together.
Are you running as an independent, not as a Democrat? Is that it?
Well, the municipal election is nonpartisan. So nobody is going to be running with an individual party, but we all have party affiliations. I'm affiliated with a party that I'm starting called the Bare Necessities Party.
Oh, it's called the Bare Necessities. Okay.
Named after the California grizzly, but our platform is spelled B-A-R-E. So the simple bare necessities of life.
What's the dollar amount for the bare necessities?
Well, it's not all that much. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the first bottom couple of levels. It's food, shelter, health. You get up to the next level, then it's safety, security, economic opportunity.
And then you would give them the care, not cash, but not the cash, correct?
Well, I think that we can look at a basic income. Even Mayor Breed's a part of. It's not called the Universal Basic Income. Mayors for Universal Basic Income. It's something similar to that. I support a basic income. I wouldn't say it's universal because I don't think billionaires need to have a check in the mail. But I support some cash payments.
Okay.
And I'm not the only one. Mayor Tubbs out of Stockton is leading this organization of mayors for basic income. And so I'm supportive of cash handouts.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. But I think...
What if they spend it on drugs?
Well, what if you spend all of your money on drugs? But
the idea of giving care, not cash, was to limit the spending on drugs, right?
Yeah, I think that that's why it's like I'm supportive of it. I just don't think that it's the end all be all. What we need to do is focus on housing affordability. We have 80,000 housing units in this city that are sitting empty. We have 16 million square feet of empty office real estate.
Yeah, but they don't want homeless people in there. Those offices are very expensive to maintain. So if the homeless go there and trash those offices, the value of the building goes down. That's the dilemma too. But I know there's not a quick answer to all these questions, but as a mayor, would you reduce the government employees?
Yeah, I think right now we're looking at a city government of 34,000 plus employees.
How much we have now? 30.
Around 34,000 city
but you want to
and county employees. You know, one thing that's unique about San Francisco is that the mayor is the head of the city and county government. You know, cities like Los Angeles have their counties separate. And the county's mission is a little bit different from the city's.
Okay.
The county's is around general welfare and things like health and like enterprise facilities like airports and ports. We have this all underneath one umbrella here. So we're very unique in that regard. You know, the mayor is in charge of the airport, the port, as well as general welfare and public safety and transportation.
So would you reduce or increase, or what would be your policy about the number of employees?
Well, I think that we have a lot of so if you look at the budget of San Francisco, it's about $15 billion each year. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of that is actually controlled by the voters directly through ballot measures. So only about $2.5 billion of that is controlled by the budget, which is put forward by the mayor and approved by the Board of Supervisors, with the board only really having control over like 50 to like $100 million of them. So I do think that we have a lot of employees here that we can be doing things much more efficiently. You know, with my background in technology, like I'd like to see technology, you know, at the heart of our government. I mean, well, close to the heart. You know, I think our values and our mission should be at the heart. But very, very close to the heart should be improving efficiency, reducing waste. You know, we send a lot of money to nonprofits that each of them have HR departments, IT departments, board of directors, executives, and that's a lot of redundancy. So I think we need to really look at that and say, can we bring this back into the fold of the city and spend our tax dollars more wisely? Yes. And I think, we can reduce the number of city and county employees. Like that is high on my list.
Yeah, with all the AI, we could reduce the number of employees. That's true.
Yeah, and what is it getting us to? I had somebody call me and tell me the other day that they said that they witnessed domestic abuse on the streets of San Francisco in the Mission, and that they called 911, were put on hold 3 times. Oh. And I thought, you know, wouldn't it be great if, there was a text message, God forbid, you know, you're put on hold with 911, but let's say you are. Wouldn't it be great if a text message was sent to you and you could just file the report right on your phone without, you know, eventually she hung up the call. Oh. And so I don't know what ended up happening with that case, but technology could go a long way to supporting the efforts of individuals in the city. Another idea that I had with technology and improving efficiency is, we have these cameras on the Bay Bridge that, are recording license plates coming over into the city.
They are.
Yeah, same thing at Golden Gate, and I'm sure like on other streets, the 101 coming up into San Francisco, we could have these where it could report a stolen car. And then at the other end of the bridge, the police are there to pull them over. You know, most of the car break-ins are caused by individuals driving around in stolen vehicles so that they know they can't be traced back. Let's stop stolen cars coming into the city using technology, and that'll create efficiencies in the police department where we won't need as many police to file reports. There's a lot of ideas around technology that I think could really help improve things in the city. So.
Yeah, that reminds me, they say a lot of the people on the street are from other states, and we have no control over that because they just come in. They feel welcome here. San Francisco gives them everything. But we should find a way to let them know that they need to contribute something as well, rather than just take all the social perks offered by the city of San Francisco.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to do is create vertical farms. We'd have that 16 million square feet of empty office real estate. We can also build in other places. Like there's an empty lot around the corner from me, and nobody can even park. They're at the end of Haight Street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we could turn some of these vacant spaces into vertical farms with attached event space and restaurant space. And we could easily feed the people of San Francisco their diets of leafy greens. And we'd reduce the number of trucks coming into the city. We'd create jobs. It could be tied to some of these navigation centers to navigate people into work, into a newfound sparked agricultural industry.
Are these lots large enough to have a farm?
Yeah, I've done the math. I didn't bring the numbers with me today, but I've done the math.
It's possible.
It's totally possible. And these would be great looking structures too if we were to build new ones. I think converting existing office real estate would actually be more feasible.
Like they do in China, vertical.
Yeah, but you could imagine that there would be a 7-story tower glass kind of greenhouse. And at the top would be a beautiful event space where you could look around and see the majestic beauty of your neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods. While being fed locally grown food. So
okay, I just read while waiting for you, it would take 12.7 billion to solve the homeless problem. Where would you get that money?
Well, I have a couple minutes left on the program here, so this might have to be the last question.
Yeah, okay.
But we are currently spending billions of dollars. I'm not sure where that figure came from. But as you mentioned earlier, we're currently spending about $70,000 each year on homelessness. But we do need to look at increasing the tax base with work from home, kind of decimating our downtown spaces. And I think, let's lure biosciences, life sciences, biotech
to
here.
Find solutions?
Yeah, a lot of their space requirements involve actually having a physical space, so they're unlike most tech. Let's also lure AI companies here and anyone engaged in technology, and technology is part of the future.
You can lead it, right?
Yeah, and we have a creative workforce here. That's one of our biggest strengths. I mean, we have the capabilities, we have the talent here. And I'm hoping that we use those capabilities and talents to marshal our strength and solve some of these challenges that we're dealing with as a city. We have the power. I mean, we have the talent here to do this. We just need to tap it, and we need leaders to help lead this new, what I consider is going to be a renaissance in this post-pandemic era. So I think the best days of San Francisco are to come, and I can't wait to be a part of it, whether it's as your next mayor or in some other role. Sure hope to be your next mayor, but we're all a part of this. We are all a part of this history that we are writing right now. And we all have it within our power to change the narrative around San Francisco.
Okay.
So,
because we're out of time, thank you for being here. I really enjoyed my conversation with you. So we'll hear more about you probably in the media, whatever, the PRs and the newspaper. So thank you for being on Channel 29 San Francisco. At least you will reach through TV the people you're trying to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can sign up for campaign updates at honestformayor.org.
Oh, Honest for Mayor. And we skipped the Charlie. So Honest for Mayor is your first name, right?
Honest is my first name, middle name Charley.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Aline.